So, oh, Hitcha! Good to see everybody again. Sorry I had to take a detour. Uh, Violated my parole and had to go back to jail for a little bit. But I'm out now. I'm feeling better. And let's go with another story, huh? So, being that I just got out, let me tell you about lockup. Um, So I started doing time whenever I was a juvenile. Um, I did a lot of crazy shit when I was growing up, and because of my ADHD, uh, I've always done a lot of crazy shit, you know. But I'm gonna let you know right now that nothing I have ever done do I feel ashamed of. Now, tell you, maybe some of the things that I did do were highly questionable, but nothing I have ever done I cannot feel prideful about. Now, that means a lot because in lockup, there's rules to being locked up. And uh, let's just go there, start there. All right, so I was a young kid whenever I got locked up first. I was always sporadic, doing crazy stuff all the time. And whenever I became uh, whenever I came back to the reservation because, you know, whatever circumstances, um, my I just got into trouble, you know. Um, Life wasn't good in Minneapolis. There was a lot of people dying at the time, and it was more safe for me to be on the reservation than it would be in Minneapolis. Now, I grew up in Minneapolis in the late 90s. And during that time, it was one of the most violent cities. So I came back to the res, you know, but then I got in trouble and I ended up getting locked up. Now, I've never been locked up before prior to that. But when I came back to the res and I did get locked up, my uncle George, he was he was like kind of like the only figure that I had growing up that was a man. And my uncle George, you know, maybe he was lying to me, maybe he wasn't. Who knows? I don't know. But whenever I was getting locked up for the very first time, my uncle was like, "You gotta do this. Either they're gonna rape you, or you're gonna have to kill somebody." And I was terrified. I was terrified of being raped. I was terrified about having to kill somebody. And that's the only information my uncle George gave me was either you're gonna do something when you get there, and you're gonna have to fight the biggest person when you get there. I don't know why. I don't. He was just telling me, and it was the only information that he gave me. So I go to YCC. It was a youth correction center in Mandan, and I get in trouble for the first time. I go in there, and you know, right when I got in there, this guy, his name is David. He's all like, "Hey man, you're Indian, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes like, "I'm Chippewa, and I'm half Chippewa, I'm half Sioux." And he's all like, "Hey, we need to stick together in here, okay?" And I was all like, I never knew what he was talking about because this is my very first day in. So I was like, all right, you know, and we made a pact. We was brothers, him and I. And so right when they cracked the doors, they're all like, shower time, and this is my first shower. in lockup. Um, I remember going down the hallway, and David comes up to me and says, "Hey, bro, man, we gotta stick together. You know, it's me and you. So the only two Indians in the whole facility, we're obligated to be friends because no other race will give a fuck about you in the lockup center because they're all your enemies." So me and David headed to the shower, right? I'm sitting in there and there's no shower stalls, no nothing. It's just one big old hallway. Boom. Probably about, I say about 10 yards. And there's shower heads. You know, every 2 feet there's a shower head. And I go in there and I just think to myself, like, what the fuck? You know? And but well, we have to shower. So I go in there, and I follow David's lead. David's already half naked. He's getting in, and so I follow him in, and we go in there. And as we enter into the shower room, it just seems like everyone starts showing up. You know, blacks, whites, Mexicans, everyone is starting to come in, and this is the first time I ever experienced anything like that. So I'm sitting in the shower, and I just keep my eyes to myself. I I will like you don't want to look at anybody because then you will look like you're gay, and gay is not good in lockup. So you keep your eyes off the privates. You only make eye contact. So I'm in there in the shower, and this is my very first time. And sure enough, you have everyone coming in. There's like probably about 30 of us in the shower, and all of a sudden, I'm just sitting there and I'm just want to hurry up and get this ordeal over as quick as I can. And all of a sudden, just here comes this bar of soap skipping across the floor, and it hits my buddy David, and all you hear is pick it up, and everybody knows like this is even though it's my first day, I know for a fact that you're not supposed to pick this bar of soap up because a lot of things can happen when you pick it up. I turn around and the pact that me and my buddy made, David, we're gonna be together. And all of a sudden, little David just zips right out of the fucking shower. Boom! Hey, like he was Jesse Owens at the Olympics. He just bounced out in a matter of seconds. And I was just thinking to myself, like, damn, I thought we were supposed to be buddies, you know? You left me in the shower alone, or, you know? But this is, as I progressed in my life, I started doing more time. And, you learn cards, uh, that's a major hustle. But me, I was always a drawer. And that's how I made my money when I was locked up. So when I first got locked up, I never understood anything, you know. And it comes quick. It's a crash course, you know. But uh, but the thing about me is that I've gotten so used to doing the time that it didn't even feel like a consequence to me anymore. Um, I was I got locked up when I was like 10 years old, and there was nothing could prepare me for the future. All right, so whenever I did my first bid, I was a young kid. But the thing about it is that it it helped me adapt. So whenever I became a man, I still started doing time. Um, and I got so used to it that it wasn't like I told you, it wasn't a consequence to me, and whenever whenever you know, when there's no consequences for your actions, or you don't believe that there is any consequences, that's where, you know, where you start to flip. You become, the word is institutionalized. So I became institutionalized when I was young, and as I grew up into an adult, I continued to do more time. I would do robberies. I would do Grand Theft Autos. But robberies is where I like to throw my lot, because when you do a robbery, it's the excitement. And not only was it an excitement, but you also got rewarded. So say if I rob somebody, there is a high possibility that he will have money. And coming from the reservation, I never had a lot. So I've always been the one to take something from somebody, because for me, you know, growing up poor, that is what I wanted, that is what I did. And I'm not trying to justify any of my actions, by the way. I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm just telling you the experiences that I had. So, so I go to prison. I went from juvenile detention center, and I end up going to prison. And my very first time in prison, um, um, was in, you know, when I was 18, and I got locked up in Salt Lake. So the thing about where you do your time dictate how the time is gonna go for you. What I mean by that is that in the Midwest, it's every man for himself. The strongest man stands tall. Whereas in California, they had a race dictated how you was gonna do your time. So I'm not white, I'm not Mexican, I'm not black. I was considered an other. So as soon as I touched down on the yard, I had to say I was an other, because I'm an American Indian. And I got locked up in Salt Lake City for the very first time. And it was like, it was ADC, Salt Lake County. And uh, I did a robbery. It was an aggravated robbery. And as soon as I hit the door, it was like I was ready. Like, I've done enough time already to understand how it's going to be. And it's not going to be difficult for me, because as someone who grew up a fighter, I've gone into a lot of fights growing up. I would fight my brothers, and all my brothers are older than me except for my little brother. But Michael Garrow, Maurice Garrow, Eddie Castillo, fucking Big Pun, Bubba. These are my Bubba and Maurice were littler than me, but everybody knows Maurice is just a big old man child, But like everybody that I ever grew up with, I always fought. Uh, you know, and that's just the way it was. It's the reservation. And because I was light complected, uh, I kind of got picked on a lot. Um, my brothers, you know, just used to rough me up. So by the time I made it into lockup, I knew that being the person who gets picked on is not a thing that you want to be. So so whenever I got into lockup, it was just so second nature to me. It was I've done so much time by this time that it wasn't so difficult for me to adjust. Um, So I get in and I click up right away, you know, um, and I go with my race. There's a couple other Indians on the yard already, and it just, you know, it just became, you know, so repetitive to say the least. And before long, I ended up getting out. It wasn't anything too serious, you know. It was just like I said, it was just a robbery. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't hurt anybody. I just, you know, it was water under the bridge, to say the least. But but what people don't understand is that for me, it was more of the excitement of doing the robberies. Um, I made it out to California, and by now I'm a seasoned vet. Uh, I've been shot at this time. I've been shot 3 times. Right here was the first one, and then it came up back here. But by now I feel like I'm invincible, and I make it out to Los Angeles, and I do a strong arm robbery. And whenever I get in, nothing. All the time I have done prior to this could not uh, could not prepare me for what was going to happen. Now, one reason why I ended up getting locked up was that, and I never talk about this ever. I always, bottle it up and I keep it way down in here, man. But uh, so I was dating this girl. She was Tongan, and half Samoan from American Samoa, and me and her, we clicked up. We were like, she liked to rob people. I was like to rob, and she understood who I was as a person, and that kind of connection is kind of hard to find in life. She was shot and she died. For me, it was the end of my life. They say you can die. You can die twice, and that was, I gotta say, the death of my son. It really tore me up. But the death of her is like it's like I died. Um, she made me want to become a better person. But for me, it was, how do you say it? It was difficult. It was very difficult whenever she passed, and for me, I didn't want to I didn't want to be in the streets no more. That I felt that there was so much memories, there was so much that happened, in the streets, that no matter what I did, it reminded me of her. So, so I told myself in the back of my mind, I was thinking like that the last place that will ever remind me of her will be in prison. So I actually got drunk and intentionally did a robbery just to get locked up, because for me, it was more easier to get locked up than it was to actually live through the life without her. So I ended up going to prison in California for a strong arm robbery, and it was one of the most violent times I've ever done. Um, North Dakota, Minnesota, Utah has nothing on the violence of what California has. But this is where I wanted to be. So I get into prison, and like the first thing is that I have all this heartache, you know, that I've actually put myself on an island. Um, you know, how I say that there's nothing I have ever done that I ever feel ashamed of as comes to my crimes. I'm proud of the record that I have because in when you're in lockup, that's all you really have is your reputation. You have your pride and self-respect. That's all you have when you get locked up. They take everything from you. So the only thing that you got is your paperwork. And you have to have your paperwork to walk the yard. Um, so I'm pretty proud of the things that I have done. There's nothing for me to feel ashamed of when it came to my paperwork. But as soon as you hit the yard in California, you have to find your MAC rep, which is the shop caller for your race. And I walk up to my shop caller and I find who he is, and I give him my paperwork. Because right when you get there, there's no reason why you should not have your paperwork. Mandatory is like it's like a passport. If you do not have your passport, you will be handled. And what I mean by handled is that someone will stab you, somebody will slice you, and it's all bad. So as soon as I get there, I give him my Mac rep my paperwork, let him know I'm a solid dude, and he runs it down. He says, "This is our shower right here. This is our toilet. We program with the blacks on the black side, and here is here's the Asian shot caller. Here is the Pacific Islanders shot caller, and that is it. You know, so I'm getting in, and I've never been locked up in this type of situation where, California is like a segregated. And it's not even inflicted by the officers. It's actually what we do naturally. So so I get down, and I have to put in my bones, to say the least. And they want to test you, see where your heart's at. So there was a child molester who came onto the yard, and they tell me like, "Hey, you got this." And I was more of myself. It wasn't I had a choice. It was an obligation. Um, so I told him like I've never done this before. What do I have to do? And if you're a snitch, they slice you from lip to ear, either or. And if you're a child molester or a rapist, you were you didn't get no mark. You were the mark. You were stabbed up, and if need be, they would want to have you airlifted out. Um, so I'm thrown into this situation, and I've only been in lockup for like, I don't know. I just barely got out of the fish tank, which is your classification, and they threw me into a situation within, I think it was my second day on the yard. Uh, but it has to be done. It has to. That's just the way it goes. And I don't know, is the taking of a life is no easy feat, to say the least. Um, but for me, being that I had all this emotion that that uh I couldn't deal with, so it came natural for me. Now I don't know if it's because I am ADHD. Is it because I am different? You know, but for me, the stabbings, the slicings, it just came natural. So here I am on the yard, and here he is. I get pointed to the dude. He's this big old Indian. He's probably like 6'7", and probably about like, I don't know, about 250 pounds. And they tell me where to hit him, and they give you this little piece of paper, you know, on where to stab. They just try to help me out as much as they could. Um, so I'm coming in, and the dude knows he's a green light. I mean, anybody who's a sex offender, they know it's coming. Uh, so as my door pops, I know I have to go. And what they want is they want it in the cell. So I go in, I just, I go into the guy's cell, and they tell me that when the door pops, it's on. So as soon as the doors rack in, I'm stuck in this place with the dude. So our door pops, I walk into his cell, and the door jams. Boom. Now I'm stuck in there. And he looks at me, and he knows, you know. I mean, any child molester or rapist, they know it's coming. And he looks at me, and he has this look in his eye like he's terrified. And I'm sitting here and I'm shaking so bad that um like I'm afraid too. You know what I mean? And I go up on the dude, and we start getting down. He has a rolled up piece of paper this long, his newspapers. He just rolled all his newspapers up. The newspapers like this long, and he rolled them up, and he kept rolling them up till they're nice and thick, till he rolled them up till they're like that fat. So he knows I'm coming for him. He didn't know. He knew it was coming, but he didn't know who was coming for him. You know, and you know, whites handle their own, blacks handle their own, Mexicans handle their own. You know, and he knew that an Indian was gonna come for him. He didn't know who was gonna come. He just knew that. You know, I mean, come on, man. Like, if you're a child molester, you like to prey on little kids, and if you're a rapist and like to take it from women, you know this is gonna happen to you. When we're locked up. So I go in there, and I'm so nervous. I am so scared. I don't know what to do. But he knows. He comes at me in the cell, and he comes at me, and he swings, and he has that rolled up piece of paper. It's like a big old. If you roll it up tight enough, you have all this paper you rolled up, and it hurts. So he swung on me, and I block it, move out the way, and I have I have my book in my hand, and I'm gonna book this dude, and I just remember this going and going, and by then it was like an adrenaline rush because he was attacking me. So I'm sitting in this wide blank, like all that piece of paper that they told you where to stab at, just like went right outside of my head. Uh, I'm just in the moment now. I'm just like, ah, I'm just giving it to him. And if you ever stabbed anybody, it's uh, it's enticing. Um, it doesn't just go right in like people say in the movie. This doesn't go right in. No, no, no. It kind of like has a brief second of a pause, like you're hitting, and like the blade may hit a bone, and then you're still pushing at the same time. So it hits. It's like a deterrent. And here I am, this getting them and getting them, and you know, when I exit the cell, I actually feel proud. I actually feel like I could keep my head high. You know, I was only on the yard for, like I said, like 2 days, and here I am stabbing up a dude. Within the first week I'm there, and a lot of people looks at me like they didn't think I was gonna do it because I'm a fresh fish. Everyone knows that, that usually they send two people in, and because our numbers were so small that only I had the opportunity to go in, and so everyone was thinking like, man, you you really did it, and and it just it just kept coming to me like I don't know how the feeling is to express it, but for me, I felt so proud, you know, like I can't, just the words to find how I felt was it was something different, it just came to me like I said, it came to me natural. Like I took a natural ability to stabbing people, and now I'm always raising my hand. I'm always raising my hand, and every time someone comes in that is a snitch or the paperwork is not, you know, is not correct, I was always the one to raise my hand because I wanted to be that person. Um, you know, the reason why I went in was because my my fiance, she passed away, and the thing about it is that, see, someone would actually feel and to actually mourn properly. I never had the opportunity because as soon as I went in, all I could think about was my lady, and the fact that she was 6 months pregnant when she was killed. It really snaps something here. Um, the thing about it is that for me, I always look at that time, and maybe my charges are never fucked up. Uh, I've never done anything that is messed up. I have robberies, all this, but when I look back at that time of my life, it fucks with me big time because instead of mourning for my lady, that I've actually honored her memory by taking people's lives. And I think that is the most that I feel ashamed of because there's things that we do in life that we try to learn from. As a person, you would like if you touch the stove and it's hot, you pull your hand away. And that is like the human nature. you know and for me, as a man, like I didn't have that opportunity for to mourn the person that I loved because I was thrown in to this to prison. And in prison, if you cry, it's considered a weakness. So I wasn't allowed to mourn. I wasn't allowed to cry. I I I didn't do it. My my tears were each person that I stabbed, and a lot of people don't know this, and I'll tell you right now, it's the Samaritan flag is each one of these stars is somebody that I took a life, and each one of these these stripes is how I made my bones in prison. All right, so each red one was inked in for a stabbing of a sex offender. Each white one represents the stabbing. Oh no no no! Each one of these red ones is a stabbing or a slicing where I drew blood. That's why it's red. Each one of these white stripes symbolizes uh, a CO that I've assaulted. So each white one is a CO, and each red one is a stabbing, and each one of these stars represents a killing. I won't say who I did it for or why I did it, but for me it became natural to do it, and you know that was life for me in prison when I locked up, and I look back at that time now, and I always think that maybe I should have did something different. But the thing about it is that whenever you're thrown into a situation, you have to react. And for me, like I was just thrown to a unit where there was child molesters and it had to be gotten. Like I look at it now like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, like it's not like that when you're locked up. You don't have an option. You don't have you don't have a choice. Um, you have to take care of these people. Stab them up, slice them, do whatever. Because at the end of the day, like you don't get to say, "Hey, I don't want to do this." Hey, I'm not going to do this because if you if you as a person are okay with someone who takes advantage of kids and a child molester and a rapist, then that is saying that you're okay with what they did. Now, I grew up, you know, I like to say that Mahuk Tania, Dakota Yankline. Like, uh, like, I believe in certain things. Now, for me as a man, I think that women are sacred because they're the givers of life. And that is how I was raised. Um, so the stabbings, I never had any hesitations. Um, I felt proud of what I was doing, and it was just like I said, like prison could change somebody, and it changed me. It made me a violent person. Um, maybe life could be different for me had I not went locked up, but I've been locked up my whole life and it became natural to me. But the violence in California, it was extreme. And the thing when I look back at my time and look back at, you know, this tattoo that I have, I look at my life like you know, um maybe maybe I could have made different choices. Maybe I could have been a better person somehow, but I didn't, you know? And I'm not trying to glorify the shit that I done, you know? But at the end of the day, it's a tattoo and it cannot be removed, you know? But it, for me, it's it's a remembrance of, of being unable to cry. Um, it was maybe like who cares, that they're child molesters and a rapist, you know what I mean? They got what they deserved. And but for me, what hurts the most is that I have this tattoo and it's a remembrance of um a time that I could have made better decisions. And now I'm just I have nightmares every night. Um I can't sleep, because I hear their screams. I hear I don't know, I hear their pleas. I see their eyes, you know. And in that dark moment of my life is that I was trying to understand death. Um, I would look at people in the eyes. I wanted to see what happened to the soul. Um, because my girl died, you know, and I had no understanding of death until that part. Um, like I barely knew my son. I was probably in his life for about 8 months when he passed away. And this girl was, part of my life for years. So when I look back at the life that I have lived, what makes me feel so bad about the situation was that instead of honoring her memory, I chose to take life. And that, like I said, like to this day, I hear their pleas. At nights I'm haunted, of seeing their eyes. And it's just I wish I could have did something different. But at that time, I felt obligated, but at the same time, I was trying to hide what was in here. And you know, hey, they deserve what they had coming to them. You know what I mean? And but I'm just saying, like, I have to deal with that. I have to look myself in the mirror, and it really fucks with me. Sometimes it fucks with me more than other days, but it is what it is. Could it be any other way? I wish it could have been, but that's just the way life is. Uh, and that is how I got my tattoo.